Welcome to the DevOps webinar, the what, the why, and the how. So my name is Debbie Zelton, and I am the Director of Application Development and Business Intelligence at Synoptek. And in this webinar, we are going to discuss the need for DevOps in an enterprise, the fundamentals of an enterprise DevOps strategy, and how to derive value from DevOps to deliver that high-quality software better, faster, and cheaper. So first of all, we should talk about what is DevOps. Well, DevOps is a software development strategy that bridges the gap between the development and the operations team in the organization by removing the hurdles of communication, cooperation, and different processes in the software development lifecycle. DevOps is not a tool or a technology or framework, but it's a union of people, processes, and products to enable continuous delivery of value to our customers. DevOps accelerates the process to deliver your application and software services at a high speed and high velocity. It is that set of practices that's combining that software development with information technology operations. And as you know, we talk about continuous delivery and continuous integration, CI/CD, which is also a DevOps concept that's very integrated with Agile. And this allows you to get that software released to the customer quicker and faster so you can get your feedback that you need and deliver a higher quality product. So let's talk about the market out there with respect to DevOps. You know, it's very hot. I think as we move forward in 2020 and in the future, it's going to be really key to understand various DevOps tools and how it's going to play a role with software development. And it's going to dominate 2020 as well as move into 2025. As you can see, the DevOps market size is going to grow to 12.85 billion. It'll be very important to increase your ability to implement DevOps in your enterprise, to automate your business processes, utilizing your cloud strategies and technologies, and adopt that Agile framework so that you can get higher quality software quicker to the customer. And as you can also see that Gartner is predicting 90% of those, of many companies, those global companies, will be able to slash their operational inefficiencies with the DevOps practices by 2020. And in 2020, DevOps will also rapidly include security. Dev security operations is all about injecting security in the application development life cycle so that you can decrease your vulnerabilities and improve your business reputation. So why does your business need to develop and adopt DevOps? So as you know, when you go to release your software, a lot of times in the past, you've had many issues. It's slow to get out to production. You have it's all done manually. You have a lot of overhead, a lot of people taking a long time to actually deploy your application. So it's very complex when you have lots of microservice architectures, end user devices, and all these different components. So all those issues occur when you have so many components to get the software out into the customer's hand. So then the complexity is there. It's lack of collaboration and leads to other problems such as slow test processes, increased cost and overhead, lack of consistency in the environments across the functions, great dependency on just one team or an individual, unnecessary manual interventions, increased cost and overhead, and ineffective process monitoring. So with all of those challenges that we've all experienced when we've released software and just the coordination between the teams, we need to overcome these challenges and come up with a strategy that can be applied across the enterprise, which allows people to work together and collaborate and make that software development process almost immune to any of the disruptions that occur that we've all experienced when releasing software. So this is where DevOps comes into the picture. DevOps increases the feedback, the speed, the efficiency, the reliability of the software that goes to production, improving the way your enterprise can deliver value to the end user. This integrates, again, as we mentioned earlier, the people, the process, and technology all together to be able to reduce all of these issues that we've all incurred. So the process of planning, developing, testing, releasing, and deploying in DevOps is an iterative process that goes through the practices of continuous integration, continuous testing, and continuous delivery and continuous monitoring, which also goes in combination with the agile development lifecycle that will integrate this as you release software almost daily or weekly or however you decide your release plan is, but also enables you to test daily so that we get the feedback early. Let's talk about those benefits. So we heard some of the benefits in the last slide, but DevOps has proven to increase the overall quality, reliability, and the speed that you deliver your application to the end user. So by creating a more receptive development environment that's aligned to your business needs, the DevOps enables the organization to, accelerate the time to the market. DevOps is key to delivering your product faster. With a collaborative working model where you have your team together, where the developers are right along with the operations people who are releasing the code, and with the help of all the tools and technologies, products can reach the market 10 times faster than expected time. In addition, DevOps facilitates iterative code releases. As more code releases happen, the probability of correcting the programming defects increases. This further shortens the recovery time and speeds up the recovery process to promote quality delivery. It will also improve your collaboration. So it really does promote a healthy relationship among the teams, different teams that are working on the project. As all the teams are on the same page, working to the same goal, it makes communication, collaboration simpler, and therefore increases productivity. It will also reduce costs. With all of those things working together, you're going to be able to reduce your costs by identifying the need to distribute the product. The DevOps fastens the entire process. The result is a faster delivery of the product into the market when the product requires minimum iterations and is delivered on or before the expected date, and does naturally save both cost and time. Continuous monitoring. So this allows you to continuously monitor as you move the product through the life cycle by accessing real-time reports and dashboards for continuous update on the change request or defects, getting fixed, and subsequent releases to customers. So overall, the DevOps leads to technical benefits, cultural benefits, business benefits. Therefore, all stakeholders involved in the application lifecycle management in an enterprise are benefited from DevOps. So this is Synoptek's implementation framework. So we have helped several enterprises implement DevOps into their application development ecosystem. So before we actually talk about our business case that we've done for a client, let's understand our 3 steps and our three steps in the approach to doing this. So the first step is assessment. So Synoptek assesses the current state of the DevOps process, the culture, the tools, and determines the maturity of the current model in the organization. Our experts will assess the current state of the DevOps processes, if there is any, the culture, the tools, and determine that maturity. Then we will assess your current IT infrastructure and develop a strategy for the desired DevOps future state and create a roadmap. We'll offer a range of suitable DevOps implementation models and estimate the cost for that implementation model. The second step is implementation based on the assessment result. This step is meant to enable organizations to have continuous integration and deployment, continuous delivery pipeline automation and optimization, automating the environment provisioning, continuous configuration automation at a network, server, storage, and software levels, end-to-end infrastructure management, and deployment and release orchestration. And the third step is management. So Synoptek is involved end-to-end management of the DevOps and enterprise, right from managing the health of the continuous delivery pipeline to disaster recovery. Synoptek is completely involved in stabilizing that client's ecosystem. So what this means is we'll work with you, or we will ultimately do it ourselves, is manage the health of a continuous delivery pipeline. We will take care of the release management. We'll create the environment replicas, create new server setup, track and measure around the clock, enable automated alerts. We'll handle log management and ensuring infrastructure security and disaster recovery. These are all the components for the implementation framework to our, three-step approach to implementing DevOps. So this is one I want to talk about, the DevOps lifecycle. So when we talk about the case study, this is the DevOps lifecycle. So first, once you determine what your product is, you're going to, plan, code, build it, test it, and then where DevOps comes into play is when we start doing the release, deploy, and operate and monitor. So that's the entire DevOps lifecycle that we would go through to work with your product and implementing DevOps. So basically, this is planning your product where you gather requirements. There's different tools that you can use, Jira, to help track those issues and user stories. Then we code and design based on those requirements. Then there's building it, which is developing, compiling automated tools for packaging or code. Then there's testing, which is also very important to the application release. Once you have a successful test phase, then it's time to release the application. And then deploy. These tools can help manage, coordinate, schedule, and automate product releases into production. And then operate on the code. Then we will monitor the performance of the application as per the requirements and keep a note on the performance of the application. And in this way, the life cycle of the DevOps continues on as we manage this entire process. Next slide is just an example of some of the different DevOps tools that you can use for the different areas within the DevOps framework, right? So you need version control tools, continuous integration tools, test automation tools, continuous deployment tools, monitoring tools, and orchestration tools. This does not mean that that this is an exhaustive list of those examples. These are just some examples, and we will be talking about some of the uses of these during our case study. All right, so we're going to talk about our customer case study. The client that we are going to talk about is a renowned logistics solutions provider to freight forwarders and customers in a variety of industries across the United States. So when Synoptek engaged with this client, they were using various systems as well as some manual processes to manage their business operations, including shipment process management, customer management, carrier management, freight tracking, and accounting. They required a centralized system that could improve automation, speed up integrations, broaden visibility, and strengthen their competitive edge. So based on Synoptek's assessment and study of their business process, Synoptek recommended creation of a web-based transportation management system, combining all their operations into one system that could overall help them improve their operations and their business and provide better customer service. Their business was really to match carriers with companies who need freight moved. So they were basically the middleman in the logistics system. So the approach was fairly simple. So we developed a solution that included shipment management, customer management, carrier and capacity management, freight tracking, and accounting. So these features included live online shipment tracking, automated proof of delivery reporting, automatic detention alerts, third-party carrier tracking, route evaluation, geofencing, a GPS package and asset tracking, customer shipment and activity reports, and delivery performance reports. So once the centralized integrated system was created, the client was able to integrate 12 different third-party systems with it to increase automation and free up employees to focus on customer service and not technology. We eliminated the unnecessary stress and time spent in the booking process with the latest technology implementation, because they were matching, again, carriers to freight companies to move their freight. So that's the booking process. Easily track the freight that's on the road and receive alerts to transit exceptions, to alert them of any transit exceptions or unforeseen delays from one location. In the next slide, we can talk about and show you some of the BI dashboards that gave the users and management real-time access to the data to keep an eye on the day-to-day operations and improve and understand their revenue, their daily gross margin, and what was needed to increase that, what the sales activity was, et cetera. So this was part of the overall system once we implemented it. So this is now we're going to go into the technical details of how and what we built for the clients in terms of the architecture. And as you can see here, we use a microservice architecture with many different components. And as you know, the benefits of microservice architecture is flexibility, scalability, it's robust, and it's organized around those business capabilities and allows for cross-functional teams because we also did the agile development methodology to create this application. So some of those components are the Azure Active Directory for authentication and user sign-in. We call it the transportation management system, a front end using the Angular framework. There's also an API gateway, which serves as the client entry point. And with that was the messaging system, RabbitMQ, which is obviously the open source message broker that handles the events that go through the system. And it's the intermediary between the API gateway and the microservices. We also used Redis Cache to help improve performance and scalability of the application. And it is an open source in-memory data structure store. And then the heart of it was the different microservices, and they are designed for each different kind of module and domain of the application. And it has its own dedicated SQL Server 2016 component. And those microservices were developed in .NET Core 2.1. Also, SignalR is used to send push notifications to the user from the web app on a specific event. And then the Windows service is just a log running process of the applications that are executed through a Windows service scheduler. So this is the overall application from a technical viewpoint. We already talked about the functionality of it in the earlier slides. So first, before we get into showing you some architecture diagrams of the technical details of the DevOps framework, we got to talk about one of the tools that we used is Docker. So we used a Docker container. And what is Docker? So a Docker container allows a developer to package up an application with all of its parts, like all the code, the runtime libraries, the dependencies, all the variables, etc. And it ships it all out as one package. It's a tool that is designed to make it easier to create, deploy, and run applications by using containers. So this is how it helps in DevOps implementation. And obviously there's other tools out there. We selected Docker. Docker enabled portability. So Docker defines a format for bundling an application and all its dependencies into a single object called a container. And then it can be transferred to any Docker-enabled machine. It's also ready to run everywhere. Docker containers run almost everywhere. You can deploy containers on desktops, physical servers, virtual machines, into data centers, and up to the public and private cloud. It also allows for rapid deployment. Docker manages to reduce the deployment to seconds. This is since it creates a container for every process and does not boot an operating system. It also allows for IT infrastructure reduction. You can optimize your costs by increasing your application workload density, getting better utilization of your server, and reducing software licensing costs. It also allows for developer productivity. The Docker empowers developers to be productive on day one. Docker removes the friction of all the dependencies to make getting started and shipping new code faster and easier, which is the heart of really getting to DevOps. And again, it creates simplicity and faster configurations. It just simplifies everything because it's all stored into one container. The next tool that was very important to our DevOps framework is Kubernetes. So Kubernetes is a container orchestration tool. It can simplify the management of those containers and make it more efficient. It helps in self-monitoring. It checks constantly the health of those nodes and containers. It automates rollouts and rollbacks. So if there's something that goes wrong when you're deploying the code, it can automatically roll back. It will automatically roll back for you. And it's also an open source tool and gives you the freedom to take advantage of on-prem, hybrid, or public cloud infrastructure. Kubernetes is designed to tackle the availability of both applications and infrastructure. So these are one of the two key tools that we used in our framework that I'll show you in just a moment. So this is the framework that was used, that we built specifically for this client for the DevOps framework. And you can follow along with the numbers on the slide, and I will talk about this diagram as how the application goes through the different stages of the software development lifecycle. So in the plan phase, the transportation management system application was tracked and managed using the tool TFS, Microsoft's Team Foundation Server, and was a way we created the user stories and tracked the progress of the application via the different dashboards and reports. Now, as you know, Team Foundation Server is now also the Azure DevOps server. So we are using that particular tool for that piece of number one and number two. So in the code phase, there's a version control tool, which we use TFS for all to record the source code changes done by the developers and keeping track of that history of those source code. Then if we move to numbers 3 and 4, in the build phase, TFS build pipeline was used to build and push Docker images to the container repository for future production release. And then in number 4, the release phase meant deploying the application into the production environment. In this version, we published the release note and tagged the version. And then 5 is deployment. In the deployment phase, the latest Docker images were fetched from container registry using Kubernetes and were used to replace the old images with the latest ones. And then number 6, once the latest containers were up and running on the production environment, Kubernetes was used to manage those containers, and Kubernetes has that self-healing, auto-scaling, and rollback capabilities. And then 7 is where we were monitoring. The last phase involved identifying and collecting information about the issues from that application release in production. And there was a Kubernetes dashboard and log to collect that information. So as you can see, this was our framework. And number 8 was the dashboard to be able to monitor all of that. This framework was used, and we built this specifically for the customer, this particular customer, and for each different other customers that we've had. This does differ, but a combination of the same sort of functionality and tools are used to build a DevOps framework. So when some of our success metrics from this case study really was the measure of our success in deployment time. We were able to decrease it by 56% in fresh deployment time and about 85% reduction in later deployment time. And so this was a great success for us in using the DevOps framework with the tools Docker and Kubernetes. And we got rid of the overhead and some of the unnecessary processes by eliminating some of the barriers that we had in prior to using these tools and setting up this process. Some other parameters that you could use, or KPIs and metrics that you could use to measure your success when you develop DevOps, is just your deployment frequency. Hopefully the number of times that you can deploy goes up because the process is simpler. The change volume, the lead time, customer tickets should go down. You're using all these tools to really track and understand what has been fixed. Customer tickets, automated test pass percentage, defect escape rate, the availability of the application should go up. Your service level agreements will be met. Failed deployments should go down. Because hopefully you'll have a successful deployment like we did each time because of the rollback functionality if anything goes wrong, and then being able to monitor the application to make sure that it does go into the production successfully. Error rates, your application usage and traffic, you can monitor that, and your overall performance. So I think there's a lot of good KPIs that you can check and utilize and measure when you implement a DevOps framework. So we're going to wrap up. So hopefully you've learned a lot in this and understood why DevOps is a must for an application development ecosystem and heard our DevOps success story. So you may want to explore more about the DevOps area. So there's some collateral items that you can find on the Synoptek website, a white paper, an ebook, and a 3-part blog series that I recommend you reading. And we can certainly help you with helping you build out your DevOps framework, depending on where you're at with moving towards this kind of framework. We can understand your business, your impacts, and talk to you about potential solutions and give you different alternatives based on your protection, your possible goals. So you can contact me at any time at dzelton@synoptek.com. And I want to thank you for coming to this webinar, and have a great day.